who is joining us today. My name is Kezi Mukiri. I am joining in from Nairobi, Kenya. I know we have several of us coming in from different parts of the continent and even outside of the continent of Africa. We want to welcome everybody to this Trade Talk. The Trade Talks are an initiative of Ignite Trade Africa. We began having a series of Trade Talks every Thursday for about 60 to 70 minutes. Every Thursday, 1 o'clock in Nairobi. It is 11 a.m. in Lagos, I believe. And these Trade Talks are an opportunity for trade professionals, trade consultants, SMEs, entrepreneurs from across the continent of Africa and beyond to dialogue on trade opportunities on the continent. But not just trade opportunities, but also how best we leverage on our consulting strengths and our entrepreneurial capacities to do business with one another and to open up opportunities for trade and business on the continent. Ignite Trade Africa is a business development firm. We are a consulting and trade support firm that is based in Nairobi. We began in 2017, and our work is to support export-oriented businesses to grow, to obtain sustainable growth through expansion into the African markets. Over the last several years, we've participated in a number of activities that are of a trade nature, from inbound and outbound trade missions, trade support activities, consulting in specifically sustainable trade. We've been at work with different groups, enabling them to build sustainable growth through expansion into African markets. Specifically, we are working with different businesses from across different continents to identify and to leverage on opportunities across the African markets. And these trade talks are an opportunity to network. They're an opportunity to develop meaningful partnerships and meaningful trade networks on the continent of Africa. So we welcome every one of you who is joining us today. We have had a trade talk that happened last Thursday, focusing on intellectual property and international trade. And we were looking at the risks and opportunities in international, in intellectual property. Today, we focus on international sales channels. We are specifically joined by Juliet, Madam Juliet Ukpabio, joining us from Nigeria. She is a market entry expert and will be talking to us on strategies for market entry, the different strategies that you need to adopt when you're thinking about go-to-market, when you're identifying either new markets or looking to penetrate existing markets. Juliet, without further ado, I want to welcome you, Juliet, just to first of all introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your experience before we jump into your presentation. Welcome, Juliet.
Thank you, Kezi. Thank you. Good morning to everyone. Like I said, it's still morning in Nigeria, so I'm going to be saying good morning to you from here. My name is Juliet Ukpabio Archibong. I'm Nigerian. I'm currently in Lagos, Nigeria. I work from here. At the moment, I am a market entry strategist. I like to say that about myself. I've got a background in experiential branding, experiential marketing, brand strategy, and then I top that up with a diploma in international trade, as well as a degree program in international relations. I've also been certified as a diplomatic protocol officer from the African School of Protocol in South Africa. I've got an extensive background as an entrepreneur, so I like to say that I can relate with your challenges as an entrepreneur more than I give you textbook or policy approach to exports, imports, and international business, I would say. because I have initiated, created, started from scratch different businesses in different sectors, ranging from FMCG to the beauty industry, to textile, retail, wholesale, you name it, service industry. I've got extensive experience in these areas. And so it's easy for me to relate with your challenge as a business person trying to enter a new market. More than my approach to lectures like this is usually very practical. It's more practical than it is textbook based, than it is policy based. I hope that at the end of this conversation today, you have better insights and you are easier equipped to advance into whatever markets, relaunch, new product launch, or a relaunch into the market that you already exist in, or a new market, whichever it is.
Thank you very much, Juliet. I'm looking forward to this conversation. I think it's a critical conversation because we are in the recovery period. And, as businesses, we are thinking of leveraging on opportunities, either in existing markets or in new markets. So this is going to be an interesting conversation. And I want to just welcome everyone who is joining us to just key in your questions, key in your comments around market entry. What are you struggling with when it comes to entering new markets or even penetrating deeper into your existing market? Juliet, I will just ask you to jump in. We are having a small technical issue in sharing, but we will have that running. But I just want to welcome you in the interest of time to run through your presentation and begin making your
let me see if I can share from my end.
Excellent.
Okay. 1 minute, people. I just want to see if I can share from my end. Otherwise, is it possible you could share the slides to everyone's emails, if that's possible, after the, after the presentation.
We'll be sharing these slides to everybody.
I'm not able to share from here because I'm not using my laptop.
You could get certificate, you have to me. We will definitely be sharing these slides to everybody who's joining us.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so I'm just going to go browse through. Basically, I'm going to define what your go-to-market or market entry strategy is. It's a clearly defined plan of action. I like to put it this way. It's a clearly defined plan of action that a manufacturer or a business owner or an organization uses to make sure that its products reaches its target audience or its target market. There are different approaches to this. The focus of this particular conversation is for African exporters. However, I can see that we have people who are also trying to enter the African markets. So it's the same structure coming into Africa, going out of Africa, but different methodologies in terms of cultural differences, in terms of market integration. I'll just run through what exactly I had written down. The strategies to use to enter any market, whatever it is, it's identifying your target market and your target audience. You have to identify who is listening and who needs it. So there's a difference. There are two sets of people. There are certain people who are listening. There are the other set of people who actually need your product. So you have to be able to identify them. And identifying them would define your communication strategy, your advert campaign, your product itself, your product packaging communication. once you're able to understand who you're speaking to and who needs your product, you are able to redefine your product strategy, your product communication, your advert campaign, and everything that has to do with communicating to those particular people. Why? Because certain people relate to things differently. You know, an African person, I'll give you a typical example. There's a culture in my country where they don't sit on the dining table to eat, they sit on the floor. So a furniture company entering that region and looking to sell dining table would not sell, simply because these people have a culture of eating sitting on the floor as a community. So they would obviously not be selling anything to these people. And if you have not identified that target audience, you will be bringing a dining table to that market and no one will be buying. And automatically you would feel that you have failed, simply because these people do not understand, they cannot relate to what you sell. Another thing is identifying your sales and communication channels, determined by the access points of your. So now, once you are able to identify who you're speaking to and what they need to hear, you would identify what communication channels you need to use to speak to them. These are the strategies in terms of how to reach your target market. You need to be able to understand the people that you speak to, and then you need to know, okay, in Nigeria, there's 200 million citizens. Now, of 200 million citizens, 67% of them are online. 67% of them are online. Your target audience is between ages of 18 to 45. Of the 67% of them who are online, there's only 10% of them who are of age 18 to 45. So obviously, if you are speaking, if your strategy is to use social media to connect to these people, you would you would not be able to reach them because they're not online. We're on slide 2. We're on page 2. Kezi, we're on page 2 or page 3. Yes. So if your target was to communicate to this age group and you were planning to use social media, you would be unable to reach your target audience, and automatically you would begin to feel that your business was not progressing. It was simply because you didn't identify who you were speaking to, and you didn't identify the access points which to reach them on. So your access point is as important as how you communicate. You know, so if you're getting me clearly, there's 3 things here. There's identifying your target audience, there's identifying how to communicate to your target audience, there's identifying what channel to communicate through to your target audience. Data is very important in market entry. I cannot tell you how important it is. It's extremely, in fact, everything thrives on data, research, statistics, everything thrives on that. Now, by the time you understand your target audience and then you understand the channels to communicate with them through, you would then begin to understand how to create irresistible offer based on their needs, based on who they are. So I'll tell you this. In Nigeria, people are very, okay, the lower middle class in Nigeria who buy the mass products. Please listen, just get what I'm saying correctly. I'm not saying everybody buys this. I'm saying the lower middle class buys mass products. So you must understand that strategy. The lower middle class buys mass product. Now, that means that the lower middle class are very price conscious. So if you bring in an FMCG product into the Nigerian market, you must understand that the lower middle class in Nigeria will buy mass products and they're very price conscious. So if I'm going to offer them something, I need to offer them a bundle that says to them they are getting a deal. Aha, that's the language. That says to them, you are getting a deal. But once you say, I'm getting a deal, if I, the manufacturer, know that you're not getting a deal, but I've said to you that if you buy 5 of these products, you get 10 free, you will buy it. If I was selling one for $35 and I said buy 5 for $70 and get another 5 free, you would buy the $70 because you've heard that there's free. because the average middle class is price conscious. So you have to be able to create an offer based on who you're speaking to. If you are dealing with an upper class, you would know that they do not have any price. They're not price conscious. They are value conscious. They are quality conscious. So you will be creating an irresistible offer that meets that. Yeah. So I'm going to move on to the next thing. The next phase, after you have been able to identify and created a plan, a strategy, would be your execution. Now, this is usually where it could make or break you. So most of the strategies, well, the key strategies in market entry, I like to, because I've seen what works and what doesn't work. Depending on what product you're bringing into the market, some things are necessary, some other things are not. There's distributorship. That's an angle to enter a new market. There's distributorship. There's finding distributors. There's finding sales partner. There's finding a franchise. There's finding collaboration. There are different other methods which all drive around partnership, collaboration, having an offshore office, having a physical presence in this new market. You could piggyback off, a distributor. You could piggyback off a retail store that already exists. You could partner with them, to carry your brand. There are different avenues. So when you work with a consultant, it's easier for your consultant to say, okay, because of your product, because of the statistics that we have, because of who you're trying to reach, this is what I think would be easier. So, you need to enter the market in phases. So you need to try one, you need to have a launch, you need to enter, you need to launch with this strategy, you need to come out, you need to enter again. If this doesn't work, you need to go into the next one. If this angle doesn't work, you need to try a different one. So it's not a one size fits all. I will say this because there are different people on this call and everyone has a different product. Everyone has a different service. So it's usually not a one size fits all. For each of this market, there are different ways to enter. Execution, you can partner with a sales outlet to showcase your product to your target audience. I find this particular one the least cost effective, in fact, let me say the most cost effective, because you have nothing to lose, to be honest. It's like having a concession stand in a store just to try out your product. But this is also good for people who have products, FMCG brands who have products to sell. For people who have services, you may want to, leverage on also collaboration. You may want to leverage on collaboration. You may want to leverage on new media on the internet. You may want to leverage on that. You may want to leverage on offering something to this market. But I find partnering with a sales outlet to showcase your product to be the most effective and the least expensive. Yeah. You could also try collaborating with similar brands to upsell. So now, if you sell ready-to-wear dresses, you could partner with a brand that sells shoes. You could partner with a brand that sells perfumes, because people research that. Now again, research data shows you that people who buy this are most likely to buy this, and this. So you could partner with one of these brands to upsell your own product, to upsell your own service. If you're a hairstylist, that's a service. If you are a copywriter, that's a service. You're a graphic designer, that's a service. You sell sanitary wear items, that's a product. Sanitary wear items could partner with people who sell building materials. You could give them license to your brand. You could give them your brochures. Your consultants will always find a way to enter the market for you. I would always say that work with a consultant. Please don't think you can do this alone. You cannot. No, you can't. You don't know everything. That's the honest truth. I'll tell you that today. You don't know everything. To save you time, money, and headache, please always work with a consultant in that market you're entering. There's also be visible and help your target audience experience your product. Now, this is what I mean by having a launch event. I've got a product that I'm working with currently. Okay, so I didn't add I run a market entry, market access agency as well. And then we also work with different brands. We currently have a product that we're working with. And part of our launch strategy, based on what the vision of the product is and what the target market needs, we created a launch strategy that allows, or rather an activation strategy that allows people experience the product. It's a skincare brand, and the owner wanted people to feel safe using her skincare products. So we created an activation strategy that allows us to be present in different trade fairs so that people can get to experience firsthand what the products feel like. So all the products have bite sizes, sample sizes, so that people can experience. For her, it's not about the sales, it's about the experience. So we created that strategy. That's a strategy that helps her brand be visible, be memorable, and helps our target audience firsthand experience what she has to offer. Yeah, so that's for execution. Each person would find whatever angle works for them. Please go to the next slide. Yes. Grow and scale by increasing brand equity, loyalty, and top of mind awareness. So for this, what that means is there's a new kind of marketing in town. It's called influencer marketing. If you've never heard about it, if you're hearing this for the first time, I want to say to you that do not undermine the power of influencer marketing. Do not. For no reason, do not. Now, I'll tell you why. People want to know that someone else has tried this thing and it works for them. And so if I try, it will give me the same results. Whether you like it or not, that's the mindset of your consumers in whatever market you're going to. So you need to find the key pillars in that market you're entering. Sell your product to them. When I mean sell, I'm not saying cash-wise. I'm not saying a barter system. I'm saying, tell them what your product does. Tell them what you do. And then let them try your product. Let them become evangelists, apostles, choristers of your products. This is the best way to create brand equity, top of mind awareness. Now, when your product has top of mind awareness in a particular market, for every time a need for something is mentioned, your product comes to mind. I'll tell you what has happened with Nestle water in Nigeria. So for every time a mother feels that her child needs safe drinking water, Nestle comes to mind in Nigeria. I don't know about other countries, but I'll tell you in Nigeria. This is simply because Nestle has positioned themselves to be the safe. Now, remember, this is positioning. We don't know if it's true. We don't know how true it is. We cannot clearly say, yes, it's safe. Other bottled water are not, other bottled water, there's nothing safe about them. We can't say that. But Nestle has sat on that seat. They've owned that power. They've owned that story that their water is safe for drinking, even for babies. So for every time a mother thinks that she wants to give her child water to drink, she buys Nestle. So you need to, this strategies, this market entry strategies that I have clearly defined above would help you identify what, would help you create top of mind awareness, because you are working with, influencers. You have created loyalists, because when people experience your brand, they automatically become loyalists to you, to that particular brand. So you have created loyalists and you have bought brand equity for your brand. So could you go on to the next one, please, Kezi? Yes, this is always my word, go into the world and multiply. So when you hear all of these things, this is really all that there is, to be very honest with you. This is really all that there is. Of course, there are other intricacies of each category. There are intricacies underneath that you work through. But like I said, get yourself a market entry agency, get yourself a consultant, get yourself data, get yourself information. Do not jump into a market you don't know. you would lose money, you would lose time, you would lose a lot of things, in the process of this. I'm currently writing a book, and then also the book is very graphic. It's very illustrating, to identify this sort of problems and how the average African manufacturer could make mistakes, lose money, lose time, lose face, in a new market. It's a lot of money to enter a new market. So please do not go about doing it alone. Always make sure that you've got expert advisory, you've got information, you've got statistics, you've got data to work with. And voila, you can go into the world and you can multiply. So that's all in my TED Talk for today. Thank you for having me, for listening to me.
I like the ending, the summary of it is go out and multiply. But if you're going to go out and multiply, of course, you need the data, you need the information, you need to work with a specialist, you need to work with somebody who understands the market that you're entering into. Allow me to just encourage everyone on the call, let us know which markets that you are already operating in, and what service, what products you're trading in, and which markets you target to go into in your expansion strategy. But as we do that, Juliet, allow me to ask. So positioning, that is really key, that you can be able to give an example of a brand that has positioned itself in a particular manner in any of our markets, in any consumer product category. We can all name brands that have positioned themselves in a particular manner. So speak to small and medium enterprises. How do you build that brand loyalty? How do you build that strong attachment, that customer attachment? How do you build those evangelists, those brand loyalists who will stand with your brand? Because I think that's an essential as you begin to think either expanding into new markets or acquiring, extended market share in your present market. That must be a critical thing. So how do you go about that for small and medium businesses?
Okay, so it starts with the little things. It starts with the smallest of things. It starts with defining who you're speaking to. That's always the biggest thing. It starts with understanding your why you are in business in the first place. When you understand your why, you will be able to identify who you speak to, why you speak to them, and how you speak to them. Yes, and what you create for them. Once you're able to identify that, this will drive all of your communication. This will drive all your operations as a brand. So it will drive how you package your products. It will drive how your customer care relates to customers. It will drive how your team relates to customers. Now, if I own a fabric store in Nigeria, and one of my key strategies when I was setting up was to create using technology to bridge the inequality gap of the average middle class people in Nigeria always goes to the market to buy the open market. We have a lot of open market system in Nigeria. Let me just say this now. We have a lot of open market systems. So unlike in Nairobi, where you have more malls, more stores, in Nigeria, it's an open market system. And in the open market system, you're allowed to buy, you're allowed to haggle prices. So people prefer the open market system here. And so people felt the impression, the data I had collated said that people felt that the open market system pricing was better than online. So what I set out to do was to create an online store that sold at the exact same price as the open markets. So for every product, I leveraged social media because I identified that my target audience was the average working class person between the ages of 20 to 45. They had more need for fabric because they had family and friends who always had an event and they always had to sew a new dress. That's a cultural thing where I'm from in Nigeria. In Nigeria, we always make new dresses. It's called, we wore the same thing for each person's event. It's called Ashoebi. you know, in Nigeria. So everyone wore the same things, like a uniform. So you wear the same very beautiful, you know, fabric. So it made the fabric market become, you know, it made fabric higher in demand. And when it became higher in demand, that meant that people bought fabrics 4 times in a month. And these people were working class people who didn't have the time to go to the market, but they needed to buy at the market price because they didn't earn so much to spend so much money on fabric. So for this reason, I created an online store. And for every product that I put on that online store, the prices were clearly and boldly stated. And the prices were easy on the ears. That was my strategy. And that created a positioning for me. So people know me, or people know my brand as, you want market price, fantastic service. You know, initially it was just pricing. Somewhere along the line, I started to understand other things that became necessary. I started to understand that these people also needed customer care. So I signed up a staff. I signed up, you know, a direct WhatsApp channel, 24 hours response system. You know, I signed up a lot of other extra incentives. And so whether you are in Spain or you are in Atlantica, you would always know that if you wanted to purchase fabric from Nigeria and you wanted a market price, this particular brand was going to give you exactly what you wanted in the quantity that you wanted. That's a positioning strategy. I positioned my brand as the go-to a fabric center or fabric hub or fabric store solution to market pricing. That's a positioning strategy for anybody. So for any SME, I didn't start my business with any money. So I will tell you now, whether SME, MSME, SME, SMEE, or whatever it is called in wherever you are, it's the same thing. You start from where you are. You start to build, you know, presence. You start to build exposure. You start to build, you know, brand association, perceived quality, perceived experience, brand preference. That's how to create a positioning that lasts.
Thank you, Juliet. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to just plug them in. Our trade talks are strictly 60 to 70 minutes long, so you find that we move swiftly. But if you do have any questions that you'd want us to tackle in this conversation, please do put them in the Q&A box. So a quick summary. Juliet is saying, what are the must-haves? Key components if you're going to create a go-to market strategy. Juliet, I'll just try and summarize some of the things that you've said, and what I leave out, please do immediately flash it in. So Juliet, you say you need a unique value proposition. Of course, you need to know what is it that sets you apart. Number 2, you need your product or brand positioning. How will customers view that product? So you start creating that positioning. And I think, in fact, the first one I should have started with is the target. Juliet talked about target. You already need to know who is your target, who are you going for, what language do they speak, what do they like, so that then you're able to speak their language. Number 3, she talked about messaging. What are your brand's main talking points? What are those touch points that your brand represents? How are you going to articulate what your brand stands for? And then, of course, you need a sales model. You need a support model. How is it that you will get into that market? Do you intend to go through a partnership model? Do you want to go through a distributorship? Maybe, Juliet, you can take it from there. I just caught a few of the items that you listed. Perhaps if there are others, you can break them down so that our audience can carry them home.
I think that before I go through anything, I'd like to hear the questions. I'd like to hear what people want to know, because I figure that, you know, quite a number of people would have things that they want to know. So let's hear what they have to say, and then it would take us back to touch base with both of these things again.
Yeah, I welcome you. I don't see any questions in the Q&A box, or if you want to raise up your hand and speak, it would be good to actually know what is relevant for the businesses that are on the call today, because that's what we are after at the end of the day, is to make a difference for, you know, those businesses that come on the trade talk. As we wait for that, maybe Juliet, you could just touch on any that we could have left out in that summary.
Okay, so I think, okay, there's someone, and there's Anne's hand up.
Hi, Juliet. Hi, Kezi.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Good. So I'm quite curious because one of the things you highlighted when you're talking about brand equity was about influencer marketing, right? So
Yes.
if I'm in Kenya and I already know who the influencers are, but I want to get into Nigeria and I've done market research and then I know who are the top people, but then now I'm an SME, and now I have to compete with corporates. I mean, how do you handle that whole influencer marketing? You're an SME trying to go into new markets, and you know if that influencer messes up, it messes up your brand. So it's a very sensitive thing, I believe, for SMEs, because I think a lot of corporates would probably have already built their brand. They're not really associated with one influencer, but an SME as an entry, it's a big deal. So I don't know how you encourage people to do that, or what is the best way to really find the right influencer, or should you have multiple influencers so that then it's not negative if something goes wrong down the line? I don't know what your advice on that.
Okay, so first off, I'd like to say that there's no one size fits all. You cannot determine that something will go wrong. You really cannot determine that when you begin a process with anybody. However, in my company, we've had instances like this, and based on the client's budgets, based on each client's budgets, the client's budget determines if you have one influencer or you have multiple influencers. So this is another thing. If as an SME, you may not have access to that sort of resources to have multiple influencers. So we go for the micro influencers that use your product in a practical way. So it's the direction that your consultant gives the influencer to showcase your products that would sell you, not really the influencer. That's what sells you. So that strategy of how the influencers use your product is what really matters. I have a product that we worked with, and we got an influencer. The influencer, so the product is like a pepper paste, ready to eat sauce. And we got an influencer for her. And the influencer was very, very particular about what we wanted to offer her, why she had to work with that brand. She had different options of us, of the products, of us bringing the product to her. She had different options for us. But I had to sit down and say to my team, I said, no, if we choose this option, she will just do it and that will be it. But the target audience does not really feel the use or the impact of the product. The product does not gain any brand loyalty or brand preference by that. So we had to go with the option where she would have a live cooking show with that product. Now, if somewhere along the line, this influencer messes up, as far as she has used the product on that live cooking show, that's my focus. Because the people that she has, the people who have come on her show, the audience that she has that trust her judgment and have come on her show and have seen her, her use that product and have seen the outcome of the product, trust the product. It's no longer about the influencer at that point. So the strategy you give to that influencer to utilize your product really matters a lot. You cannot tell if the influencer will mess up or not. That's the honest truth. If you can afford to have multiple influencers, good. Now there are different categories of influencers. There's the major ones, there's the micro ones, there's the everyday people one. You would select whichever one works for you, whichever one works with your budget. It's not a one size fits all. So for that's why I said it's important to have a consultant, because your consultant will work with your budget, your consultant will work with your goal, your vision, the vision of your brand, your end goal. What are you trying to achieve? So the consultant ties your budget, your vision, your goal, the activity together to create a strategy that works for you. So even if you cannot say anybody would mess up. To be honest, you cannot say, and I'll be very honest with you. You can't say. even as a consultant, we can't say. We just hope for the best.
Let's talk about businesses in the services.
I can't hear you, darling.
We need to talk about businesses that are in the services sector. And we have a question here. What are the unique positioning tools for a service in education technology? What are some of the positioning tools that we could use, I think broadly for the services sector, but then specifically for business that is in education technology?
So the strategies, part of the strategies for that would be determined. I cannot tell you now that this is a strategy that will work for you. This is one that won't work, because there's a lot of things that goes into creating a strategy. But I would say that leveraging social media, your social media content, your social media activities are a very good tool to drive education technology. Now, remember what education is teaching. So having, your social media or your social media communication strategy clearly defined and on point, that's like a big tool for you to use to drive your message into whatever market. Then you can piggyback. You can piggyback on, on schools. You can piggyback. You need to offer something free. You need to be able to offer something. People need to be able to see the value of what you are bringing in, because it's education, it's a service. People need to see the value first. So you need to be offering something to that market free. If I was your consultant, that's what I would start with. I would look for a way. I'd look for the offering angle first of all. So you need to be offering something, and I'll also look at your communication, your social media communication, because it's education, it's technology. People on the internet, there's a large number of people on the internet, especially because of the pandemic. There's a large number of people on the internet now. So I would piggyback on that. I would leverage on that a lot. Although I don't know what your end goal is, I don't know what your vision, your brand, the vision for your brand is. So I cannot really tell you, but I would say that these are what I can say from the top of my head that are the best options for an education technology business.
Thank you, Juliet. A quick one, Juliet. You and I and many others on this call are Africa Development champions. We are Africa Development advocates. And we are in the era of the AFCFTA. We have this market opportunity, 1.2 billion people. That number is expected to grow 2 billion by, I believe, 2040, 2 billion Africans. And this is an attractive market. And we've seen world powers angling to take trade deals with Africa in this moment. So a question is, how can small businesses, how can even, generally SMEs on the African continent leverage on the AFCFTA for market development? How do we get, what are the touch points? What are the low-hanging fruits? How can we get small businesses trading across the borders? What are the low-hanging fruits in terms of market entry strategies?
The lowest hanging fruit for SMEs is to leverage technology, is to leverage the internet. That's the best cost-effective or cheapest access to enter in new markets as an SME, because somebody in South Africa can see your products on the internet and purchase. Somebody in Rwanda can see your products on the internet and you're from Nigeria and purchase. That's the easiest way right now. Now, the AFCFTA is a very complicated process, I'll be honest with you, because there's 54 countries signed on to that agreement, and not all of them have been able to ratify their processes. They've approved it, but they have not begun trading. Now, the process of trading under the AFCFTA is another thing altogether. Your products have to be made in Africa. Your services have to be, made in Africa. Let me use that word. And that means a whole different paperwork. It's not been simplified yet. So I would say that even before the AFCFTA agreement, people have been trading across Africa. Africa has been trading within itself. I've been sending items to Ghana. I've been sending items to as far as Mozambique from Nigeria. So I've been sending items to different parts of the world. using DHL. The logistics partners have been, I think that they are even the biggest players on this AFCFTA thing. They're the ones they are the heroes of Africa trade. I give it to them, the logistics partner, the logistic companies. They are the heroes. Yes, it is pricey because sending items to the UK is cheaper than sending items to my next door neighbor, which is Cotonou here. Yeah. However, the internet is a good place. So all the orders that I've gotten so far from these places came from the internet, came from Instagram, and services would come from LinkedIn, So I would say that that's the lowest hanging fruit for an SME to leverage on. Make sure that your social media presence is perfectly positioned. Social media communication is, you cannot undermine the necessity for it. Okay.
Absolutely, Juliet. I completely agree with you. Leveraging digital spaces for income, for impact, and even for influence. That is the way small businesses need to go. And of course, the internet has created a level playing ground such that SMEs can now compete for opportunities that would have, hitherto be more available for bigger businesses. And I think I always say that another low-hanging fruit for small and medium enterprises is to leverage on partnerships, leverage on value chains, leverage on partnerships, grow by partnering with SMEs in other African markets. I am able to penetrate, say, the Nigerian market because of partnerships that are already in that market, or the Southern African region because of partnerships that have been able to build in that market. So it is really important that we build on our partnership. But then a quick one, even as we are coming to the top of the hour, Juliet, there are those who might feel that, this whole talk about the FTAs, regional trade, international trade, there are those that feel that is, it's good to have, but I have not even exhausted the local market, that have not even exhausted demand in the local market. And yes, our individual countries on the continent, there's already demand that we have not exhausted. So when it comes to creating go-to market strategies for your local market, is there any outstanding or any differentiators? Are there any, is there any strategy that would be different from if you were targeting a regional or international market?
Okay, so I did mention that at the beginning of the call. And also I'm an advocate for don't be the one-eyed Sunday in the country of the blind. Be the preacher in your own country first before you try to go somewhere else. I'm a big advocate for that. Most of the clients who come to me, I always say to them, let's dominate your own market first. I don't like to use that word dominates because it means you're setting yourself up for a competition, but that's not what it is. But enter your own market first. Express your value in your own market before you look to entering another market. Or yes, there are some products that are more useful in an international market than in your local market. There are products like that. They were actually created for an international market more than they're created for the local market. Those ones you can understand if they want to go to another market, other than their local market. But the difference only, like I said in the beginning, they are the same structures, just the methodologies that will be different, which is within your local market, you understand lingua franca, you understand communication types, you understand the languages to use, you understand the avenues to penetrate from. That's the only difference. It's distribution in your local market. So you can use this strategy to enter or re-enter. I'd mentioned that before. This strategy is to enter or re-enter that market. Maybe you've been in that market before, which is your local market. You can use the same structures work. We've had brands who have come to our agency and they've already been selling, but they want to relaunch. So it's the same structure. So now they have a clearer understanding of their why. So usually what happens is this: when you've been in the market before, maybe you feel stuck, you feel stagnant, you feel like your brand is not expressing its values the way you visioned it to be, you usually would go back and sit back and want to re-enter, because now you have a clearer understanding. That's why I said it's important to have a strategist. It's important to have a consulting, an agency that you work with that can guide you, because if you don't have clarity as to why you are doing what you are doing, you're going to round up back at the same place. So it's very, very important to understand that. And it's the same structures. It's just now you have a clearer understanding of why you are doing what you are doing. We just have, the strategy is what is different, but the structures are the same, local or international markets. I think another thing for the international market is, licensing, the licensing, that comes in with that, and these are things you discover as you go on. When you're going to enter each market, the needs differ. I'll tell you that the needs required in the American market is different from what is required in the UAE market. So it's not a one size fits all. There are different, for every market, there are different requirements for that market. There's a different language that is needed. In the UAE market, you can't take food, you can't take certain things without having a halal certification. While in the American market, it's not that way. They don't require that. So they are different. Each market requires a different thing.
Thank you. It's been a very interesting conversation. One of the things that I have found very useful and that we offer at Ignited Africa is what we call the business and cultural training workshops. Because we have found that for businesses, particularly from certain parts of the world, generally across the world, we have different business ethos, different business cultural innuendos in every market. And as you're entering a new market, you need to understand what is a cultural ethos in the business context of that market. And I have found it very critical for businesses, particularly entering the African market, to study and even within Africa, Africa is not homogeneous. Our business ethos in the east of Africa is very different from, the southern parts of Africa or from West Africa. So wherever it is that you want to expand your brand to, it is really important. And I just want to underline, really important, as Juliet is saying, to work with a strategist who understands that market very well, to perhaps even invest in doing a business cultural, understanding. What Lucy is you're saying, cultural intelligence, it is really important because it's a make or break. I often say we've seen businesses, even within Africa, from the southern part of Africa, expanding the operations to East Africa, and then they're completely unable to make it. And after pouring in so much money, making an investment, they have to pull out because they were not able to integrate with the culture.
Kezia, that's what I was saying when I explained that when I gave the example of the dining table, and the dining table company going to a culture that they sit on the floor, they don't sit on the dining table. So I think culture is you'll be amazed the kind of mindset that a culture forms in its citizens, in its individuals, in its people, that influences their purchasing decisions. You'll be so amazed.
If you're going to negotiate, your tone of negotiation, your personal conduct, including are you going to shake hands or not? Is it acceptable in that culture? So it's really important to invest in that cultural intelligence and be able to understand basic ethos in that community. So I want to thank you very much, Juliet, for coming and giving this talk today. I do not see any questions. I just want to actually allow you to make any concluding remarks, any specific call to action, Juliet, that you would want to make, and then we will be coming shortly to a close of this discussion.
I would have preferred that there were questions to be asked here, but sometimes my presentations are usually very explanatory, so I understand when people don't ask questions. It's a lot to digest in. However, if you are a foreign company looking to come into Nigeria, you need to contact Ignite Africa. They have a team of us in different regions, and they understand our skill and our strength areas. And they could best advise you on which of us is most appropriate to work with you based on what you're trying to achieve. Some of us are, experts with FMCG services. Some of us are experts with agricultural sectors. Some of us are experts in different sectors. So, I would say moving forward, the call to action is, should you have any need to enter the Nigerian market, or the African market, or should an African have any need to go to any region, Asia, Europe, America, Canada, whatever it is, speak with Kezi, have a word with Kezi, and she would be able to refer you to a consultant that can work excellently well with you to achieve your goals and your visions.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Asante sana, we say Asante in Kenya means thank you very much. Allow me to just show to us, some of the things that we can help you with at Ignite Africa. I know Juliet has talked a little bit about it. So we are basically a business and trade development consulting firm. And what our interest in is to help enterprises create sustainable growth, specifically through successful expansion into African markets. Our forte is the African market, and we've worked with consultants in different parts of the African market, and we're developing capacities in different regions, in different areas to enable businesses create sustainable growth through expansion into African markets. Our goal is to help businesses maximize revenue and generate growth in both domestic and international markets. So we often work with businesses that are outside of Africa that are looking to penetrate the African markets. And we work a lot also with African businesses that are either looking to build partnerships across the rest of Africa or build partnerships outside of Africa. And this is how we can help you. This is what we call sustainable trade consulting, enabling you build sustainability plans within your business. It's also allowing you or enabling you to think from a sustainability perspective when it comes to how you expand your business in international markets or domestic markets. We also offer foreign market entry support. This goes all the way even into procurement consulting. It goes into partner and investor search. It includes enabling you build systematic growth strategies. It includes even legal support in foreign markets. We then have overseas marketing and promotion, and you will have consultants such as Juliet who will oversee activities around the marketing and promotion of a product in certain regions. And then I have talked extensively about the business and cultural training seminars. And also there is investment advice. If you're looking for investment opportunities on the continent of Africa, I know we have somebody from this call, specifically from the Indian market, who is looking for opportunities, collaborations in the African market. That is a service that you can benefit from. And our last point of support is our trade missions, our trade fairs. This can be done virtually. We can enable you build a database in whatever region that you're looking to enter in. Over the last few weeks, I talked about this at the beginning of the call, we have begun to have these trade talks. And last week we had a talk on intellectual property and how that functions in the sphere of international trade. Next week, we'll be talking about digital globalization, how to enhance your connections. How does a global digital globalization impact on inclusivity and trade? And this is particularly relevant for those of us that are looking to leverage on digital connections to enhance our connections in different markets, to enter into certain trade platforms or trade networks that would be necessary for us to get our products into certain markets. So thank you, everybody. Thank you very much, Juliet, for participating today. For anyone who might have a question that we've not been able to tackle today, please do feel free to email us trade@ignitetradeafrica.com, and we'll be able to respond to that query. So once again, asante sana. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. We try to keep this trade talks to within 60 minutes. It is a great way to make use of an hour, just 1 hour in the week, to get yourself appraised, educated, to build networks, and to also enhance our knowledge on trade in the region. Thank you very much. Keep well. We'll be sure to join and be sure to join us again next week, Thursday. It is 1 o'clock East African time, 11 o'clock in Lagos, and I believe 10 o'clock GMT time. Thank you. Keep well. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Yes. Bye. Bye, everyone.